It was a science fictional idea. I wrote the story that this is based on in 1998. It was published in 1998, so I started writing it a couple years before that. So, like, I mean, I don't consider myself a great seer. Certainly, a lot of science fiction writers were putting ideas out there that were fodder. It's what it gave me the inclination to say, oh, okay, well, that could happen and that could happen, and if those two things happen together, then it might result in this. So yeah, I don't think I was going from a totally original place, but it was certainly original enough that even now, the main reaction that I'm getting to the book is, wow, I've never read anything like this before, which is great. I love that, but it's not always the best thing in the world to be the first one doing something, because people are unfamiliar with it, and people have already developed tastes and they know what they like, and this doesn't quite fit into any of that sort of, well, it doesn't contain many tropes, and a lot of readers look for tropes, you know, romance readers, adventure readers. It's either tropes or you're drawing on human history, or and with my world, it's a little more difficult to do that, except for the fact that the BioGrid does depend completely on the human created database. Yeah. And so there's a lot of stuff that's kind of mixed up in there. It's kind of like a big cosplay event that's constantly going on inside the BioGrid. Basically, what the trees have learned to do is they not only imitate humans in the way that they conduct themselves, but they have enough information about individuals that they can become. They can gather all of the information about a particular individual and become that individual, or a good replica anyway. And so a lot of the trees become, I don't know, you could see Abraham Lincoln, or Jean-Paul Sartre, whatever sort of strikes them as, oh, that would be interesting.
Everybody, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter. It's the author podcast. You meet great people from around the world. And this time I didn't have to go too far from home, which is great, because, you know, we could probably meet for coffee sometime, which would be great. We should. Dale is here, and we're going to talk about his journey as an author, multiple books, multiple things for you to fall in love with. A beautiful website too. Dale, I love it. You look very serious there on the picture on your website. I like it. I'm like, oh, I'm going to sit up straight. Dale, welcome to the show. Glad to have you on Living the Next Chapter. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Dave. It's a pleasure to be here, and a pleasure to address your audience.
Ooh, address the audience. I like that. Dale, I know where you live. Well, I don't know exactly where you live. That would be kind of creepy. Might be a story in there somewhere for your book. But Dale, could you tell everybody where you are in this big world of ours?
Okay. I have been living and working in Ontario for the last 23 years. Before that, I was on the west coast of Canada in Victoria.
And what brought you all the way from there to Toronto? Wow.
It was
story.
Work.
Okay, good.
I did it for work.
Yeah.
Well, and also for my ex-wife had family out here.
Okay.
And they were getting old, and she had wanted to do that. And it was sort of one of those things that when you go into a relationship, you go, okay, well, in 5 years or 6 years, we can go out and live there for a while.
Yeah.
And it just happened. it coincided with a whole bunch of other opportunities that came along at the same time. So none of which came through, but it was fine. It got me here.
Well, when you come to Ontario, we like to keep people, so that's good. It's working. Our plan is working. We've kept you here.
Aha!
Yay, we did it. So Dale, let's talk a little bit about your author journey. We discussed before hitting record that you've got some insights to share with new authors who might be listening to the show who are just kind of early days in their journey and looking for inspiration from somebody who's further down the path than they are as a new author. If you could listen to a podcast when they were available, if they were available back then, and there was an author further down the road from where you were as a starting point, what kind of things do you think would have been helpful to hear from them that might help you when you first started out?
Part of the problem here is that the publishing paradigm between when I started out and now has changed drastically about 3 or 4 times in that 45 years, 50 years.
Wow.
But when I was getting really serious about writing was in the 90s, and things have changed a lot since then, basically going from print to online. When it first happened, when that paradigm shift first began, nobody had any clue how to navigate it. And most of the writers I know stuck to the idea that you have to be traditionally published or nobody's going to take you seriously. I even have I'm friends with a couple of book collectors who felt the same way. It's, oh, but you're just self-published. And it's not the same thing. You don't have somebody who has vetted you and decided that you're brilliant and decided to publish your book.
Okay.
You have decided that you're brilliant enough to publish your book.
Yeah.
And you put it out there, and nowadays you're pretty much on your own. You have to figure out every step of that process. From like writing it is great. Writing it is the fun part. But once you've written it, you have to decide, okay, is it good enough yet?
Right.
And for that, you have to go to other people. Writers groups are good. If you're not a member of a writers group or don't know any other writers, you might be able to find some online. There's Discord is a gaming channel, but there are lots of streams on there apparently now about like writing groups and places where you can get feedback on your writing. And I highly recommend in-person writing groups because and I mean, to start that, all you have to do is go to your local bookstore and ask if there's some place that they can put a note on the wall saying, I'm starting a writers group for people who like, well, say in my case, science fiction and fantasy.
Yeah.
Anyone interested, please give me a call. And in a couple of weeks, you'll probably have 4 or 5 people who saw it and are interested. And then it from there, it gets really interesting because then you have to decide how elitist am I going to be? This person wants to write, but they've got no experience and they have what they've shown me is not very good. So am I going to go ahead and have a writers group with this person? And I mean, it's up to the individuals whether you're going to do that. And I think it's probably good. Like when you first start out, that's exactly what you need. You need that range of experiences and that range of talents and abilities and skills, because then you can really help each other.
Right.
And really, that's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And it's great to have, I mean, everybody's got an opinion. And in the writers groups.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
In the writers groups that I've been a part of, you get quite a range of opinions.
Yeah.
And usually there's 1 or 2 people in the group that are on your wavelength and a couple people who aren't. So you kind of develop this relationship where, oh, well, every time I hand something into the group, it gets panned by these 3 people. and loved by those two people.
Right.
So you kind of have to weigh everything. And it's really important in those kind of situations not to take the comments too seriously.
Yeah.
Because who says that the person that's giving you that critique knows any better than you do?
Mm-hmm.
And they probably don't, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, because it's your idea and it's based on your experiences. So really, you're the expert. Doesn't mean you should ignore their opinion and their advice, but don't take it too seriously. Don't allow it to change everything you're doing. I've seen a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
You know, they get advice and they go, "Oh, well, I have to change that."
Yeah.
No, you don't. You have to consider it and decide, does this resonate with me? Does this make sense? Does it strike me as something that would improve my story, or just change it?
Yeah.
And those aren't the same thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, writing groups are great. I've got a relationship right now with a friend who comes over once a week, and he sits over there, and I read to him. I read what I wrote in the last week.
Really?
And he's not an expert, but it's absolutely wonderful for me to be able to read my work out loud, because that's one of the best ways to figure out how well it's working.
Yeah.
If it rolls off your tongue and
Yeah.
you feel really good reading it, you know that, yeah, this is working. And they're sitting there nodding and, okay, I'm onto something. A lot of the time when you start to read something out loud for the first time, it's horrible. It's awkward.
It's funny. I actually heard one author say that his preference is to create the audiobook like even just for himself before it's published. Because when you get on and start reading it chapter by chapter, line by line, that's where you're like, oh, wait a minute, I could have, because now you're hearing it out loud, right? You're using more of your senses. So he does an audiobook version. Again, he might not even release it, but before it goes to print, he wants to hear it. He wants to speak it out loud like you're doing with your friend in your office. He wants to do that for the entire book. And he said it saved him so many missed things, because it goes to editors, comes back, this person touched it, that person touched it, and then you post it, and you're like, oh, I could have done chapter 3, page 17 better. Now that I'm speaking it as an audiobook, I'm like, I see all of the things where it could have improved. So like a lot of authors wait to do the audiobook after it's released, and they do it later. I'll get to it when I get to it. He does it the opposite way, and I thought that was quite unique.
That's got me thinking about. There are a couple of writers that I've met and interviewed or know through someone else who apparently dictate their books like right from the start. Yeah. They don't write anything down. They have a tape recorder or whatever.
Wow.
I guess it would just now be your cell phone.
Yeah.
And they just come up with it on the spot and read it and speak it into their device, and then transcribe it later, or hire somebody to transcribe it later. If you're,
because we don't write like we talk, and we don't talk like we write in most cases, right? So you might get a different feel to the book when you speak it.
Oh, you
like that,
absolutely do. It's certainly not going to be like, I put a lot of emphasis in my writing on style. I've always loved writers like William Gibson and Michael Ondaatje, who are real stylists. And the joy that I get out of reading those is just the way they're masters of words. Yeah. And they just pull me in. That command over style can really pull me in. And something that's just read right from the start is going to be sort of old-fashioned storytelling. That's almost the caveman kind of sitting around a fire and oh, well, I heard this story about this guy who lives over there, who saw this Tyrannosaurus or whatever. Yeah. That's ridiculous. He didn't see a Tyrannosaurus because we didn't live at the same time. But yeah, just tell stories around the campfire, and I guess probably back then it was hunting stories and war stories, and maybe some sort of gentle stories about interacting with nature. Yeah. I guess it depends on who's telling it, right?
Yeah. When I think of like a good storyteller, even like a comedian on stage, I love callbacks. So they introduce something to you at the beginning, they start telling you the story, and then they tie it back to something that happened at the beginning, and you're like, oh, I see what you did there. I see. You called back to the beginning, and you tied it all together. There's a skill to a good storyteller. It's not just repeating a story. You got to actually bring people along with you in the journey.
But I will tell you, the first time they read that story, or the first time they told that story, I bet you that callback wasn't in there.
Yeah, true.
It was the 10th time they told the story that everything started to kind of come together and become manageable.
That's fascinating. I like that.
Yeah, it does evolve, and I mean, I'm a writer who does things. Takes me about 8 drafts to get it right. So yeah, I know that experience.
Yeah,
and I would imagine it's exactly the same when you're an oral storyteller.
So it's almost like the best stories are not just told; the best stories are retold.
Yeah,
right, because they stick with people. They'll go and tell it when you're not even there as the writer, as the author. Oh, you gotta hear the story from this book. It's great, right?
And honestly, I'm not sure how good of an oral storyteller I would have been, because I don't have that kind of memory that can access that. It's kind of like, why didn't I ever become a singer? Well, other than the fact that I can't sing, the main reason I never got involved or never really tried was because I didn't have the memory to hold on to the lyrics.
Yeah.
So like about 3 songs storage up there,
that's about my
then
limit.
it's done.
Yeah.
So I guess oral storytellers would have the same sort of thing.
True.
You'd have to just repeat it. And I mean, you get the beats down, you learn how to tell a story.
Yeah.
You learn, oh, well, this is pretty sleepy so far. Nothing has really happened. I better bring in something else. And you might even make stuff up on the spot to just liven up that section. Yeah. I mean, but when I read to my friend Domingue, it's what I've written. So I feel a lot more comfortable about it. And because I get to read it rather than having to remember it.
Yeah.
But there is still very much a sense that if you don't write it well, then it's going to be really awkward to read out loud.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
It's not going to sound natural at all.
Yeah.
It's not going to be compelling. It's not going to pull readers in.
Yeah.
And so, I've never done an audiobook. I don't know if I'd even be capable of it. It's one of those skills I haven't developed yet. And I mean, how many skills do you want to develop? I think that's something that new writers need to think about too.
Yeah.
Like how much of this process are you going to take on?
True.
I'm lucky because I was a painter for a number of years, like just illustrating, sold a bunch of my illustrations to magazines. So when it came time to put out my books, I didn't have to hire an artist. I was able to just do my own cover illustration.
Nice.
It might not be as good as other people's cover illustrations, but it's not bad. In fact, I'm pretty proud of it. Other people have bought my work for their books. So
nice.
You're okay. Well, I must be decent.
The covers are beautiful. I think they're great.
Well, thank you. So all of those covers are mine. I worked as a publisher for 20 years, and so I know how to do typesetting. I know all the rules, so I can do that part of it as well. Although that's become less and less important because now, as long as you can create a version of your book in Word, you can export it to draft to digital or Amazon, and they will convert it into an EPUB, and then you can take the EPUB once you're happy with it and just say, I want to create a print book out of this, and it just takes the same file and moves it over, turns it into a print book. So I mean, you have to have a good eye. You have to realize when that shortcut isn't working.
Yeah.
But so much of it is just automatic. So you don't need to be a publisher anymore.
Interesting.
Where when I first started doing this, you needed some real skills.
Yeah.
Or you needed to hire somebody who had those skills.
Yeah.
So, I do think hiring an artist is a good a good thing to do. Which sort of brings me around to the whole discussion about AI.
Here we go. Everyone, buckle in. It's going to be interesting.
And yeah, I'm very conflicted about AI. Partly because my book series that I'm writing right now is very much about AI and the sort of evolution of it. But right now, the arts community is just so up in arms about AI and how people use it. And there's a lot of things that I see that see people doing that I sort of go, well, I'm very conflicted about that too. Like you sort of go, okay, well that's a really good song you created.
I know that happened to me last week.
Is
Listening,
it?
a song came up on my For You page or whatever, popped up and it's
Yeah.
like recommended to me. I hit play and I was just like, this is the song I've always wanted to hear. And I'm like, kept listening to it and listening to it. And it's just like, I'm a musician. So every
Yeah.
part of it was like, I'm totally connecting with everything, the voice, the lyrics, the style, everything. I'm just like, oh my gosh, where's this song been? Like it's brand new. And then I go through and do my research. It's completely AI. There's no humans on the recording. None. You'll never see this song live in front of an audience. There's the voice of the singer's not real. It's all AI. But my gosh, is it good? I'm like, wait a minute. Now I'm conflicted, like you're saying. I
Yeah.
love it, but should I? Like, because I want to support real musicians. I'm a real musician, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to support people
Nice.
like me, but this song is so good. Like, it's
Yeah.
just got all of the best of everything in it. And I'm like, I totally don't know what to do.
You can look at that in a whole bunch of different ways. You can reject it outright,
Yep.
which seems kind of self-defeating in some ways.
Yeah.
I've heard of a lot of musicians these days writing stuff or using AI to write something and then taking that, transcribing it into music and whatnot and lyrics and doing their own take on it live. So that's a good fruitful way to do it. But I mean, you don't really own it, but then nobody does. So why are you worried?
Right.
I mean, there are so many sort of conflicting emotions about all of this stuff. And the thing I've discovered is that a lot of writers feel okay about creating a cover illustration using AI, whereas the cover artists all feel hugely offended by
Yeah.
that, and they're losing business and they're losing customers because people are doing this. In that sense, it's a very bad thing to do. I'm really not sure where I stand on it. I do object to a lot of people I've seen. There's a famous writer I follow on Facebook who basically says anybody who uses AI to create art, I'm not interested in being your friend. Please get off my site. And I can see the logic in that, I suppose, except for the fact that he's a science fiction writer who has been writing about AI for forever. So for him to turn around and sort of demonize it like that really surprised me.
Yeah.
I think it's going to take us a fairly long time to come up with exactly what our relationship with it is. And I have other friends who are scientists and science fiction writers who look at AI. I have one friend who works for the Defense Department. They use AI to write things all the time, but he just insists that AI at the moment is just a language model, and it's not only not very smart, it's not smart at all. It's just a tool.
Yeah.
Does he support using it? I don't think so. But on the other hand, I follow a couple of websites. There's a couple of websites I've found recently where somebody creates all of these images strictly through AI. They don't draw it, they don't paint it, they just get the AI to do it. And then they create their own music. Maybe I mean I don't know how much of their own imagination is involved in that process. And then they put together a music video that is just mind-boggling.
Right.
And it's totally new. It's not taking something away from anybody else. I guess it's offering a bit of competition for people who are doing original music. But But what it is something that we've never seen before.
Right.
And I think that's a legitimate use of AI. I have no problem with that at all. And in fact, I my jaw drops when I watch some of these things. They're just so amazingly conceived and executed. So yeah, it's a big thing right now trying to decide, are there any legitimate uses of AI? And you're going to be alone, whatever you think.
Yeah. True.
Somebody's going to hate you for it,
Yeah.
whatever way you go. I think as a writer, I'm very conscious of how other artists will look at me if I go wholeheartedly into using it. So I've been avoiding it. I've never used it to write anything. I have used it to copy edit for me. And yeah, I'm depriving some copy editor somewhere of work.
Right? Yeah. I think the one thing in all this AI talk, again, out from a musician's point of view, as a podcaster, it also has impact for podcasting. For authors, it has impact, artists, everything, like all that creative community. The one thing that I'm finding is with so much availability of automated generated content through a computer, the one thing that really rises up is human told stories, human connection, people, right? So that's still a big need. People want to hear from people. I want to be able to go and hear and see you at a book signing. I'm not going to go to a book signing for an AI model where there's just a monitor sitting on a table, right? That's not very interactive.
And it doesn't care if you're there or not.
It doesn't matter, right? I want to go see and talk to the person. And that, again, that's kind of the foundation of my podcast is I want to raise voices of authors so people can connect with you. Someone's listening to us right now. They either already have all your books or they will be getting all your books. They're listening to this conversation going, I feel connected and drawn to this author. There's a bond. I'm curious. And I just love how they present their thoughts on the podcast. If we can do that together and build that bond between a reader as a listener and you, then I think that competes in a world of automated generated content, and that competes in a world of click one button and here's your book. Because you're a real, well, as far as I can tell, you're a real person. You're not an AI bot. You're an actual human being. And I think that's one thing we can lean into if we want to find what differentiates us from everything else is we are humans. And so we still make mistakes. We still stumble, but we create in an imperfect world where AI seems to be all perfect all the time. Back to that song. It's always perfect.
I do think that has a lot to do with the popularity of podcasts. Because, well, especially like if there's a video component, you feel more comfortable in going, yeah, that's a real person. Right. I've seen so many things online lately that are voiced by AI, and you don't realize it's AI until they make some stupid mistake. Right. You know, they completely mispronounce something that should be obvious. Yeah. But yeah, I think that need for connection, that need for human connection, is what makes podcasts so popular. Right. Yeah, I mean, if I'm watching you, I believe that you're real. Whereas if I'm just watching some random thing on YouTube, then it may be real or it may not.
Okay, so this kind of leads perfectly into your books because there's a whole huge AI component to your stuff. And I loved how you described it to me. I want you to do it for me again because I think the audience would love this. But there's you gave me a picture of trees and roots and kind of putting it in that context around your book for the reader. Can we kind of go here? Because I want that kind of visual for somebody listening as well.
I was actually thinking of the same thing. Good. So what happens in the book is it starts with a disaster. So it's a post-apocalyptic book. And the disaster is essentially a huge, you can't even call it a solar flare. It's called a Meraki.
You got it right there.
Hang on.
Let's go to the source.
I think, I wrote it down here. Mayaki event.
Okay.
Which a Japanese scientist came up with this concept. And basically it's, we've seen solar flares before. We all know what solar flares are about. There's nothing really much to worry about. There was something in the early 1900s, late 1800s, called the Carrington event, which basically knocked out electricity over big parts of the planet. It even knocked out telegraphs.
Wow.
I mean, it was a major solar event. And so my Aki event sort of starts with something like that and says, it's 100 times more powerful than that, though. The sun basically sent out a stream of radiation that enveloped the Earth and just killed off everything electronic.
Wow.
I mean, how do you erase, say, tape or something?
Yeah.
It's with magnetism.
Yeah.
These are magnetic storms coming off the sun. So, like it would do a fairly decent job at erasing most of the computers on Earth. And go 20 years into the future, and we're not publishing books anymore because everything's online, and any books that survive are sort of antiques. So then you knock out all the computers, and what do you have left? Does anybody know how to use these various tools anymore? A slide rule? Do you know how to use a slide rule?
Typewriter? Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So I sort of started there, and I went, okay, here's a generation that's been raised with personal assistants that tell them when to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And suddenly they're faced with, there's nothing there. I have to figure all this out on my own.
Yeah.
And basically the Earth doesn't survive it. A lot of people have told me, oh, well, I think that's very, very pessimistic that you basically kill off most of the people in the world because we lose the computers. Well, I don't think it's necessarily that outrageous. I can very much see it happening. We all of the safeguards that we have, say in the places where they experiment on new diseases, all the safeguards are electronic and on computer. And so, I mean, who's to say the doors just won't spring open when this happens?
Right.
So I've effectively wiped out the world. But one thing that survives is this biological computer. And the biological computer idea comes from, I'm losing my words a little bit this afternoon, but we all know about the fungal networks, the mycorrhizal networks that are underneath the ground, and these essentially funguses that cover 50 or 100 or 300 square miles communicates with each other. Scientists have been researching that for about 40 years, and they've discovered that, trees do that too. Other plants do that as well. Some of it do it through the mycorrhizal network, the fungal network, and some of it is just tree to tree because of their root systems. And so I thought, okay, well, how about some team decides that they're going to create a biological computer in the root network of a forest, just turn that into a computer. And so I figure, okay, we also use biomanipulation, genetic manipulation, and we would create a forest using, in my case, I used banyan trees because they're not only the one of the oldest trees on the planet, and they're sort of the model for the tree of knowledge and tree of life.
Right.
But they're also really cool trees, and they have these hanging roots. So the way they reproduce and the way they spread is they drop these rootlets from the branches, which get rooted in the ground themselves, create new trunks, and so the tree grows out and out and out. So I thought, okay, if you got that sort of setup, and the tree can take care of itself basically. Yeah. If it can move these rootlets on its own, they're like arms and hands. Really, there's no reason other than the fact that they can't get up and walk around. There's no reason that they can't come up with science or anything that we do, right?
Yeah.
They could create little factories probably if they wanted to. They would be different than human factories, but they would certainly be things that could be manipulated. So I figured, okay, well, this is a really cool setup, and have this this computer built into the root network of this tree. And then when the Miyake event happened, it might affect this computer as well. But what happened in the book is that the trees tried to protect themselves, their knowledge, their sense of self, by sending all of that information as deep as they could into the ground.
Mm.
And by doing that, they broke everything up. So like it was no longer a big connected network. Now everything was at the tips of these roots and all split up, so that when it comes back, when it kind of ventures back from its exile, it reforms because it knows how, but it doesn't reform exactly the way that it was. Instead of it turns from an individual, from just a computer, into a society.
Mm.
And each of these little pockets of intelligence has become an individual. And because they've been created using knowledge of human society and human history, everything that it knows is based on what we've put into it. So it holds us up as not only the creator, but their ideal of what their lives should be like. And because life within the biogrid is essentially virtual, they create a sort of an imitation of human society inside the biogrid.
Okay, when there's my brain is melting. When you started writing this,
Yeah.
or the original concept, the idea for this came to you, how prevalent was our current state of AI at that point in time when you when this story found you?
It was a science fictional idea.
Yeah.
I wrote the story that this is based on in 1998. It was published in 1998.
Wow.
So I started writing it a couple years before that. So, like, I mean, I don't consider myself a great seer. Certainly, a lot of science fiction writers were putting ideas out there that were fodder. It's what it gave me the inclination to say, oh, okay, well, that could happen and that could happen, and if those two things happen together, then it might result in this. So, yeah, I don't think I was going from a totally original place, but it was certainly original enough that even now, the main reaction that I'm getting to the book is, wow, this is, I've never read anything like this before.
Yeah.
Which is great. I love that, but it's not always the best thing in the world to be the first one doing something, because people are unfamiliar with it, and people have already developed tastes and they know what they like. And this doesn't quite fit into any of that sort of, well, it doesn't contain many tropes.
Yeah.
And a lot of readers look for tropes.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, romance readers, adventure readers, it's either tropes or you're drawing on human history, or
somewhere to hang your hat, basically.
Yeah.
Right?
And with my world, it's a little more difficult to do that, except for the fact that the biogrid does depend completely on the human created database.
See, back to our original content we started at the beginning, right? Yeah.
And so there's a lot of stuff that's kind of mixed up in there. It's kind of like a big cosplay event that's constantly going on inside the biogrid. Basically, what the trees have learned to do is they not only imitate humans in the way that they conduct themselves, but they have enough information about individuals that they can become. They can gather all of the information about a particular individual and become that individual.
Right.
Or a good replica anyway.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the trees become, I don't know, you can say Abraham Lincoln or Jean-Paul Sartre, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever sort of strikes them as, oh, that would be interesting.
So the reason I asked about your starting point, time-wise, was if you wrote this book last week, it's like, well, you're just kind of commenting on what's happening in the world today. relatively, from my perspective as an outsider and as a non-author, I would think it'd be easier just to be up on the news of what's happening in AI and then write a fictional story about AI, base it on trees, done. But this is way before the conversation we've had at the beginning of the podcast. So you didn't have these points of reference like we would see today, because it's touching a lot of the things that we see and touch today. It's more in the general conversation today than it would be back when you started writing. So you were kind of seeing around corners. You could see over the horizon where other people weren't looking in that direction, and you're like, I want to go that way. I want to go follow this muse that I have, this idea, and I want to go see where it takes me. But I would think that today, as you watch developments happening and new things coming, that it's got to be kind of like a little pat on the shoulder going, yeah, you were on the right path here. Things might be a little different than what you were talking about originally, but we're heading in a direction where it sounds almost like your book was telling us a little bit of what's to come.
Well, I mean, I never actually intended it to be a literal,
right. Oh,
this is
fiction.
What's coming.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I've always thought of it more. I'm a very allegorical writer. My favorite books are very often books that okay, here's one, Grendel. It's basically the story of Beowulf told from the point of view of the monster.
Nice.
So basically it goes back to the story that already exists, and it goes from a different point of view, one that's completely unexpected and fascinating. And so I tried to do that throughout the book. Music plays a huge part in the book because I worked in radio for 20 years. I was writing commercials and things, but I was drawn to radio because of my love for music. I was a concert junkie when I was young. Nothing could come to town that I wouldn't be interested in seeing. So I went to a lot of live music events, and I have a real passion for that. So when the story in my book really begins when the trees finally figure out a way to reestablish contact with humanity, because that was lost.
Right.
And their very first attempt to reestablish contact with humanity is with a little girl who kind of goes chasing butterflies into the woods, and they kind of drill into her brain and establish contact directly with her. But they're so overzealous that they start feeding her information. And there's like 30,000 trees in this forest. So they feed her a lot of information in a very short time. And basically, when she's dragged back out of the forest, she's just catatonic. And that catatonia turns into something a lot more like autism as she gets a little bit older. And all this information is in there, but she just can't sort it out.
Yeah.
Just too much stuff. And she finds a way, and that way is through music. A lot of the information that has been put into her brain is music. And she has these tunes that people haven't heard ever, people in her world. This is 300 years in the future.
Yeah.
So nobody knows these songs except her. But she doesn't sing the songs because that's not communication. What she does is she just replaces the lyrics with what she wants to say. And so she basically communicates largely through pop music and rock music, and she just replaces the lyrics with what she needs to say. And one of the fun parts of the book, I think, if somebody is really into music, you might enjoy being able to read some lyrics on the page and go, I know what that song is, because it won't be the lyrics of the song, but there will be enough of the lyrics of the song, enough sense of the song, that you might be able to actually figure out what song it is. So I had a lot of fun with that. I also had to be very, very careful because the music industry is so protective.
Oh, yeah.
Like the record industry is so protective of their property,
Right.
that I had to follow copyright law to the letter. I never used more than 5 words in a row from a song. I could either say what the song was, or I could present the lyrics that were different.
Yeah.
but I couldn't do both at the same time, because then you would know what song it was.
Yeah, exactly.
And that could be argued that, oh, that contravenes copyright law, because you're using that rhythm
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that cadence and so on and so forth. So I had to be very, very careful about how she did that. But she eventually figures out how to communicate through song. And her sister sort of inherits her father's position as the ruler of this community. And so she's quite powerful in the city, where the city state where it takes place. And she is a very smart person, but she's also a psychopath. And she taps into her little sister's brain and figures out what her sister is saying, and realizes there's more knowledge in there than anyone ever dreamed. And she knows things that are lost.
Yeah.
She knows how to build things and how to create things, and like electricity. She helps her invent electricity. And so she actually tortures her little sister to some degree to get this information out of her. And then when the little sister starts to communicate with other people, her communication skills have developed to the point where she can not just talk to her sister, but talk to other people. Adoris, the sort of antagonist of the book, realizes, oh, well, if she's going to undermine me, she's going to spill all my secrets. And so she decides to hire somebody to kill her off. And it gets a little fairy tale-ish. I have her hire a huntsman to take her into the woods and bring back her heart, so to speak. So there's a lot of sort of mythopoeic stuff in the books. It's just a really kind of crazy mix of genres. There's a lot of fantasy in it. There's a lot of science fiction in it. But that conflict between the two sisters is probably the main element of the book. The one sister basically learns how to communicate with the forest directly. The older sister communicates with the forest directly, and she uses extortion, basically. She burns them. She sets fire to them if they don't help her out. So basically she gets the whole forest under her control and starts reinventing technology. And there's nothing wrong with reinventing technology. I mean, people, her people think she's wonderful. She's brought back all these fabulous things. There's actually cars and things that can play music, and all these things that had been lost are brought back. But really, she's torturing everyone in order to do it. She's torturing the forest. And the interesting part of it that people who've read the books comment on is that I've sort of flipped everything so that it's the AI that's the hero and the human that's the antagonist. So and I never thought of that until somebody wrote a review, and I went, oh yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, it was a very important thing to me to make this person not unable to experience normal human emotion, because the book is largely about the computer learning to do that, to do exactly that.
Yeah.
And so the computer is becoming more human, and the humans are becoming less human, and they're sort of going to clash in a very interesting way.
Well, that's a great way to end off. I like that. Dale, as far as connecting with you and again, going to your website and seeing a very serious side of you, and then look at your photo here on your website. For those who want to come and follow your journey and see what's up with you and all the things you have a lot of great resources. Your blog, a bunch of great stuff here. Tell us about your website. I do want to close off with one final question before we go, but talk a little bit about your website before we go.
Well, my actual website, which is just my name, DaleLSproule.com, is not particularly good. I'm not great with web tools, but I do have a great website, which was supplied by a company called BookBub.
Okay.
And the website is godsoftheNewWilderness.com.
Nice.
So it's all one word.
Yep.
It's a very long word, but it's actually fairly easy to spell.
Yeah.
Just don't put the breaks in between, and you get there fairly nicely. And it's got information about the 2 books that I have written so far in the science fiction series, a couple of horror books that or horror collections that I have written before that. And it's got a full sort of bibliography of stories that I've written and where to find them. I do have a fairly long publishing history. I've been publishing stories since the late 80s.
Wow.
So I've got like 100 things published, poems and stories and stuff like that. I have a page on Medium. So on Medium, it's at Dale Sproule.
Okay.
I'm just looking for a book that actually has my name on it.
There you go. Yeah.
Because not everybody knows how to spell Sproule.
Yeah.
So, and I have a Facebook page. One of the other wonderful tools that I have encountered on Facebook is there are lots of Facebook forums on science fiction, fantasy, and horror. I've gotten onto a site called Fantasy Sci-Fi Focus, which is really good, but there's lots of them.
Yeah.
There are lots of great resources online. There's places where authors can get together. There's lots of places where it's just readers getting together and sharing their love of books. So, I have not a lot of great things to say about Facebook itself.
Yeah. Right.
But there's a lot of good things on Facebook and a lot of good things on social media, period. But you need to look for it. You need to dig and not settle.
So Dale, for the name of my show, obviously, Living the Next Chapter, one of the ways with the questions is kind of built right into the title of my podcast. For the listeners and the readers, they're like, oh, please tell me Dale's got more coming down the road. So it's kind of a leading question with the name of my show. How, Dale, are you living your next chapter? What can we look forward to from you down the path?
Well, I'm in my early 70s now. My big goal is to just live long enough to get all these projects done that I have planned. I'm pretty certain that the series that I'm working on, the Gods of the New Wilderness series, will be finished very shortly. All the books are written and are just in the process of getting one more draft and a polish, and then I'm putting them out. At least 2 remaining books are going to be out. I'm looking by the end of 2027, and then I've got a bunch of other stuff that I've been sitting on for a long time. As a writer, I took it way too cautiously when I was younger. I thought, I'm not going to write a novel until I know I can pull it off, until I know I can write a good one. So I spent 40 years writing short stories and never tried a novel. And then suddenly I've got all these novels just bursting, wanted to get out of me. Very limited time in which to do it.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I'm a fairly slow writer. So you can look for the remainder of this series.
Good.
I have a few other series that there's a technique of writing books called a fix-up, which is essentially you take 3 or 4 interrelated stories and you string them together like a necklace, and you create a novel out of it. And I have several short story series that I can do that with. I'm really looking forward to putting those together so that they can actually become books, and I can market them a little more effectively. I mean, granted, right now online, a lot of people are publishing their short stories as though each one is a separate book. I think it's a bit of a cheat, actually.
Really? Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if someone will pay $5 for a short story, you can get a novel for that.
Yeah.
So at least you owe it to people to give them a little bit more.
Yeah.
Give them a couple of stories.
Yeah.
At
Yeah.
the very least.
I'd agree with that one too. I think
one story at a time, which a lot of people are doing now.
Yeah.
And it's all differences of approach.
Yeah. My secret to why I asked that question on my guests is I just want more time with you. So I'd love for you to come back in the future. Let's celebrate another release. Let's talk again, because I think the audience would love to hear more stories from you. And, we've had a great conversation, but there's so much more I could ask you. So you keep writing, I'll keep having you back, and we'll just keep talking.
Sounds good to me.
All right.
I like that idea.
Okay. So there's an agenda, a secret agenda to all that. So there you go.
Thank you very much,
Good.
Dave.
Dale, thank you so much.
It's been such a pleasure.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. You've made my mind melt a little bit. I've created some new roots as well as we gone through this conversation. So
hopefully I haven't been too confusing in my explanations either.
No, I love how our initial beginning of the conversation started and where you took it into your writing. It just kind of all blended together really well. So Dale, thank you so much for being on the show.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dave.
Excellent. Everyone, all information for everything we talked about We'll put a link to Dale's website and to the book series website as well. Yeah, I'll give you both. We'll give you both. But definitely go check it out when, not if, when you buy Dale's books. All of what he's doing. Leave a great review. Let people know why you connected so well with the book and with this author so that other people feel drawn to it as well. Your words really matter as a reader, and we can really encourage our authors, right? So don't just throw in great book, great author. That's kind of you, but put something in specific. Like what in the story resonated with you? What was your experience reading this book? Like give it some thought, because I think that's something we can do as readers. We can really support our authors. So please leave a great review. Reach out to Dale. I know he'd love to hear from you. A quick message wherever you find him. Leave him a little message. Let him know you heard him on the show. But I think it's one thing we can do for our authors, really encourage them. In a world of AI, click a button, create a book. We have great authors like Dale here.
Real people
doing real things for real listeners, real readers. Support your authors, everybody. Support your creative people. Dale, thank you so much.
Thank you for doing this.
Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast. Glad to have you here. I just want to let you know that you can always find out what we're doing live in the moment by going to our YouTube channel. Head over to livingthenextchapter.com. There'll be a link right there. Head over to our YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, do all the things that all the YouTubers love to say. And in our YouTube channel, a couple things. You're going to get advanced listens. You're going to get the episodes that we're working on in real time. So we record and post daily on our YouTube channel. I'd love for you to give us a follow over there. As well, we're making playlists. We have over 500 episodes. So finding the right episode for you, we're trying to group things into playlists. So if you like children's books, if you like business, you like historical fiction, we're grouping our authors together to make it a little easier for you to find your favorite next author. So head over to livingthenextchapter.com. And again, I'd love to hear from you. Hearing from the listeners of the show is great. And I just want to say thank you for being a part of the podcast family. And I look forward to having you back for the next episode. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate your time and your listen. Take care.